Hey, Mistakes listeners, this is Dave, and I'll be really brief about this. Once again, in the laundry room, try to get a little privacy, talk to you guys. Todd and I actually did get together again, and we watched Adventure Time. This would be episode 15, and we recorded this episode on the 12th of August, 2015. Well, as promised, in my last episode, I'd say that we did a show down here in California, so we did a little switcheroo, correct? You were in Seattle.
No, we did a show in Seattle.
Correct.
Now we're in California.
Right, but the promise I made in the last show, which I didn't do...
Did you make a promise?
I did, at the intro, which you actually haven't heard that intro yet.
Oh, okay.
So I'm fulfilling this promise for our listeners.
All right.
Yes.
So this is really turning into sort of like a world tour.
If you consider my travel between California and Washington as a world tour.
The world tour has to start somewhere.
Yeah, where are we going next? Please tell me.
Well, I don't know.
Okay.
I guess from a podcasting standpoint, again, the listener doesn't really care where we are.
No, not at all.
But for us, it's important.
Again, it's important to me.
Okay.
Anyway, now I am down in California, visiting Todd, obviously, but this is obviously also a family vacation. We are on the outskirts of Disneyland, and this is my daughter's first time here in Disneyland, and they've been going absolutely crazy.
It is the happiest place on earth.
I wish I could say that's true.
Yeah, it's really not.
It's not at all.
No.
Although, I have to say that in my adventures in Disneyland, I have had a lot of smiles. Like, no denying it, when you're there, you are actually, if you catch the spirit, you are actually happy.
Yes. Well, and as a parent, you always sort of put pressure on yourself, I think, to create these family experiences.
Correct.
You want there to be these pleasant memories.
Right.
Remember when we went to Disneyland? It was so much fun.
Right. It's funny how much you don't remember the lines, though, which is the majority of your experience at Disney.
Well, it depends. I guess.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
I can tell you, we spent a lot of time in lines.
Yes. Well, if you're with people that you like and you have a good attitude, then yeah, maybe the time just sort of goes. I guess it depends on how your children act while in line.
Yeah, and we actually got that handled. We actually sing to them.
Oh, very good.
Yeah, they love it. So.
Do you sing Disney songs, though?
We don't sing Disney songs.
Oh.
You know what? That is actually not true whatsoever. So, side note, we actually found some old Disney albums from the late 70s that were supposed to come with my Disco Mickey Mouse album.
Oh, yeah, Disco Mickey Mouse.
Disco Mickey Mouse. Actually, it's Mickey Mouse Disco, and it came with 2 side albums. You know, like the $9.95 deal, and you get 2 more albums.
Right.
We got those 2 albums, and they are full of old Disney folk music.
Nice.
And it's a ton of fun, and we listen to those albums all the time.
All right.
I couldn't recommend them more.
Excellent.
Yes.
All right, so just a reminder, this is Parenting Mistakes. I'm Todd. This is Dave.
And that makes parenting mistakes.
Yes.
Yes.
We are not experts. We talk about parenting. We talk about our kids. We talk about what they watch, what they're into, that sort of thing. And there we go. That's us.
That is correct.
And I could just give a big disclaimer, but that is our disclaimer.
Yeah, it is. Did I tell you that I came up with what I think you are on this show?
What you think I am
yes,
on the show.
I came up with the term the PMEP.
The PMEP.
Yes. Parenting Mistakes Elder Parent. The PMEP.
So if you've listened to the podcast before, you know that we have this ongoing dialogue. If you have not listened, Dave treats me
as the PMEP.
Dave treats me as if I'm like 20 years older than him.
Well, you have kids that are like 20 years older
which
than mine.
is not true.
And you know what I am? I am the PMRP. The PM Rookie Parent.
Okay.
Yeah.
You're not a rookie parent.
Yeah, but
how about the JP? You're the junior parent.
No, that doesn't sound as cool as rookie.
Okay.
Rookie is so much better.
Well, I suppose if you're a rookie, then you get to get away with making all sorts of mistakes.
And here's the deal. Because we're episodic, we can never really use PMEP again. Or PMRP.
I suppose not.
Yeah. So, it is what it is.
All right. Should we get to it?
So the dovetail here tonight is that we are adventuring in Disneyland.
Oh, I see what you did
right?
there.
I was trying to give you the high.
Do we have time to do, our adventure?
Right.
All right, so we did Adventure Time.
Adventure Time.
Which, I got to be honest, is this on the Cartoon Network too?
You should look up Wick before we get ourselves in trouble.
I
Because
should.
we always find ourselves in this position, and
Yes.
I know that tonight we reviewed names for sure, because we don't want to have the situation that we had come up with Dog with a Blog.
Okay, so we are talking about Adventure Time. The main characters of Adventure Time are
Finn.
Finn the human and Jake the dog. I do believe this is on Cartoon Network. If it's not, we apologize. It's on something.
We watch the show. That's what's important.
That is
That's why we're
important.
here. We're here for you
Okay.
parents to watch the show.
So
not
Finn
to
the
advertise the network.
Finn the
Correct?
human and Jake the dog. Jake the dog is how do we describe him? I guess he can go into different shapes.
Yeah, he can morph. He can morph himself.
He can morph into in this particular episode he morphed into a pickup truck.
Yep.
And he also did sort of like a separate sort of puppet type character that he was
He
pretending to be
morphed
somebody
into the
else.
princess.
Yes.
Right.
But that was just his tail.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, he extended a part of himself to become the princess.
So, Jake and Finn have, as the title suggests, adventures.
Yep.
Yeah, they do adventures, and they are. It seems pretty obvious that they are sort of best buds, and they cover each other's backs, and they're sort of. How do I describe it? They're mischievous type people.
I can't say that either. And so the problem that we face in this episode, and it's unique, I think, to cartoons or just to Adventure Time, is that the protagonist was not Jake and Finn. They were
Correct.
not the protagonist in this episode, and
Okay.
and because we only watch one episode, my gut tells me that they are the centralized characters for this show. But in this case, because we're sitting in season 6, and this was episode 9,
Yes.
they have deviated a little bit and given some other side characters or even special guest stars. So it's sort of like if you were watching an episode of The Brady Bunch and suddenly the Bradys were not the focus. It was actually all about Davy Jones.
Correct.
And the Bradys were kind of in and out here and there. But it was Davy Jones' show, but you're still watching The Brady Bunch, and that's kind of what happened here.
So in this particular show, the focal character was Root Beer Guy.
Right.
And it's actually the title of the episode. And this is something we should back up. The format of this show, or at least the format we've seen with some similar shows, is that a half-hour slot will have 2 separate episodes. So
Right.
This is about 12 minutes, which, we could get into a whole long, deep rabbit hole about storytelling and what that does. But, needless to say, it's a short story. 12 minutes.
Yep.
Very quick. Root Beer Guy is the protagonist. He is a telemarketer by day. He writes mystery novels at night.
And dare I say that Finn and Jake were the antagonists?
A little bit, although, again, much like any other plot, there's sort of 2 plots going on, and they're sort of connected, then you wonder where it's going to go. So,
Yeah, I also want to say that I get the feeling that Adventure Time is also highly serialized, so it seemed like there was probably something that happened at the previous episode, and because we started off with basically Jake and Finn burping a giant baby and burping candy out of it and saving the candy people because they were in Candy Town.
correct.
That's how this episode started.
Correct. Which is very random.
Yes, completely. Which I think Adventure Time fans love. They love that randomness.
I imagine they do. So, not to go too deep into the plot, but Root Beer Guy is, again, he's got this day job. He writes mystery novels at night. He's generally dissatisfied with his life.
Right, he's a middle-aged root beer guy.
He is. He observes Finn and Jake kidnapping Princess Bubblegum.
Correct.
He believes it's a crime. He tries to get the authorities involved. His girlfriend/wife, I don't know, whoever.
Cherry soda.
Cherry
cream soda.
Cherry cream soda.
Right.
Is frustrated with him, not only because he's wasting time on this novel, because he's got these conspiracy theories.
Okay, so just so you know, root beer guy literally is a body with a root beer glass top. So
Yes.
his head is a glass.
Yes, with
And-
like foam, with the
With
foam
the
on
foam
top.
of a root beer. And what I love, the nice touches were some of the sound effects when he actually would kiss his wife. You'd hear that chink, because she had a glass top too.
Yes.
Right. Anytime somebody would touch his head, like, the sound engineers obviously love this show. They
Yes.
did a really good job.
So the plot again isn't necessarily relevant, but let's just say we won't do a spoiler. It all sort of wraps up, and it does have a conclusion.
It does.
It
Yeah,
has a definitive conclusion. Everything works out kind of smooth, that sort of thing. So, as we always do, we sort of have a formula for this, but give me your initial reaction to the show.
Again, I wish. Okay, so it's one of those scenarios that if. Remember how I was telling you, referring back to Mako Mermaids, I watched another episode after it. And in this case, I'd like to see more of it because I feel a little bit disconnected. I have a feeling that in watching, so again, I always come from the entertainment bent first, which is kind of, there's my parent view, but there's also the strict entertainment view. I don't understand these characters that well. So coming right into it, it's not necessarily funny to watch them, but I am guessing that after 6 seasons, this episode would probably be very hilarious to an Adventure Time watcher. I'd also say that I did find the centralized plot around Root Beer Guy kind of endearing.
Yes.
And because I am a middle-aged guy, I totally get what's going on for him. Like, basically, he can't sleep at night, he's feeling anxious, he's in a dead-end job, he's in a telemarketing center.
Right.
Like, the worst kind of job you could have in middle age. Okay, please forgive me. Some people probably love telemarketing.
Yes.
Not my gig.
No.
But for him, it's actually a dead end, and at night, when he's feeling anxious, he breaks out his typewriter and he starts writing noir.
Yes.
Right? He's writing a crime novel, basically.
Yeah.
And living out an alter ego, which I think was milk chocolate something.
Yeah,
Milkshake.
something, it's a milkshake.
Chocolate milkshake.
Yeah, that was
It's
the
like,
character.
I want to be chocolate milkshake is
Right.
what he wants. And so he is, I get that. I totally get it. I understand the midlife crisis bit, and it's very simple, right?
It is simple, and it's clever. I mean, I will say this: the humor is very random, but it's very sort of there's a subtleness to it. There's some intelligence.
Sure.
When he walks out of the telemarketing office, and there's a couple of his colleagues sitting outdoors. Which
You're right. Right.
and if it was not a kid show, they'd be having a smoke break, but
Yeah.
they're just kind of hanging out.
No, they're having a smoke break. The guy's smoking a bubble pipe.
Oh yes, that's right.
Right,
He
you
was.
see
So,
him, he's
yeah,
smoking a
yeah,
bubble pipe.
Okay, I missed that part, but
He
that
actually
that
is.
does make sense.
Right.
There is a level of clever to the way it's written. It's pretty slick. The dialogue is again more adult oriented. It's hard to decide whether or not again there is supposed to be a message here. That's always the interesting thing of these types of shows. Is there supposed to be sort of a wrap up, a moral to the story?
Yeah, right.
Or is it just kind of, hey, we're going to do some goofiness and there's a little bit of uncertainty and now we're going to wrap it up and move on? It is very clean, I will say that. We've seen other Cartoon Network shows that have got some sort of borderline
again,
adult humor.
Eventually I think we're going to have to return to some of these shows again just to watch a different episode to kind of get a different take on it. I, too, want to say that it was a very clean show, and I'd also say that the art style is very simple, right?
Yeah.
Everything about the show seemed really simple, although my gut says there's a lot of subtleties. I remember, so there's actually a scene where Root Beer Guy is writing his noir, and if we had paused the video right there, they actually kind of pan in on his typewriter and what he's writing, and there's actually legitimate writing there.
Right.
I have a feeling that Adventure Time users will pause the show a lot just to see what they've kind of put in there. Because we
Right.
actually paused the show once to see I'm going to say it was Japanese, it could have been Chinese, please forgive me, but it was Asian descent, some sort of language there, and I'm like,
On a building.
on a building. I'm
Yes.
like, I'm not sure why that's there.
Right.
And again, if I was a fan, I'd probably know why.
Well, and there's other subtleties, and again, this is always the hard part with parenting, is that when you look through the lens, not looking through the lens of your child, but looking through the lens as, I wonder how my child is looking at this. For example, later on in the show, Finn and Jake appear at at Root Beer Guy's door
Yep.
in a sort of a sinister sort of way.
Right.
And Jake the dog has in his mouth sort of looks like a cigarette. It sort of looks like he's there. He's being sort of the cool detective guy, or the gangster, and he's smoking, and he's just got this thing hanging out of his mouth. And then after a little bit of dialogue, then he leaves, and then he pulls it out of his mouth.
Sure.
And it is a lollipop, which again, something tells me he does that other times.
Correct, and I'd say that's there are a number of parenting red flags that come up throughout the episode. That being one of them. The other one is the illusion that perhaps his sex life with his cherry soda wife is just not all that satisfying.
Correct.
Right? And I'm like, that would just fly way over kids' heads, but it's there.
Right.
And as an adult, I get it, right? It's another midlife kind of issue that you might face. And that's not necessarily something that a 6 or 7-year-old has to... they're just not going to get it.
Yeah, Root Beer Guy comes home from work and to find his wife in a French maid outfit.
Right. I don't know what she said, but we got to chuckle out of us.
Yeah, she does, an accent and... Yeah,
we come back to the bedroom.
That's right. We can put this all together. Okay. So here always is the challenge here. Is this appropriate for a particular age group? Like, where would you put this in terms of who should be watching this?
Again, there's our favorite college age student. I think would absolutely love this show.
Yes.
Right. The problem is that it's so tame in some ways that if my 6-year-old was watching it, I mean, it's just not in their face. Like, it's not. There's some other shows that we've watched recently where I'm like, oh, this is borderline offensive. And Adventure Time seemed pretty benign.
Yes.
But I'm not even sure they would find it entertaining. Right? That's the question I have. Is the animation style entertaining? Yeah, I think so. But the plot was so serious. The plot was so directed at, say, us. Like, we totally got it, but I don't think it would be entertaining at all for somebody that was, say, 6 or 5.
Well, you have to wonder if, again, you split up a show. So you say the story and the dialogue are for the college age, the young adults, and maybe the parents that are watching alongside over the shoulder. We've talked about over the shoulder
Viewing
today, and other times. Then the rest of it, just sort of the visuals of it, the fact that the police force in the town is a bunch of bananas,
right? And they're buffoons,
and
Keystone Cops.
The fact that there are all these different food characters just sort of running around.
Yeah, they're in a candy land.
And the fact that, Jake and Finn, they have this box, and so then Jake turns into a pickup truck.
Right.
And then he throws the box in the back and makes these little sounds, and off they go. You wonder if sort of that is what entertains the kids, the sort of puppet show aspect of all these random characters running around.
Yeah, honestly, I think that's more directed to an adult audience.
Maybe
I think it's making more. I think it's kind of like we're in a cartoon, so these are the things that happen in a cartoon.
Well, it is kind of weirdness in some ways. I mean, there is definitely a weirdness factor, and again, you wonder if that does appeal for kids because it is sort of kind of a very raw sort of imagination land thing, picture.
Yeah, I think, absolutely.
This is Candyland. It is Candyland.
And I will say, and just to make sure here, I don't think that Jake and Finn spend all their time in the Candyland with the princess.
No, I think they go to other places.
My guess is that there are multiple places in which they go, but in this case, this week, it was in Candyland, and yes, that would be appealing to kids. But again, I get the feeling that it's sort of like, no, these are the things that happen in this particular cartoon world. On Adventure Time, these are the zany things that happen. And all that to say is, again, not for kids. Would it be entertaining to kids? I don't know. That's what I'm putting a big question mark on. I don't even, is this one of those shows that my 6-year-old is going to go off in the corner and sneak and watch? I don't think so. I think she would kind of clue into the fact that this is just not that interesting.
Yeah, and I guess I would be curious. I mean, I could ask, some kids, friends of my kids, whether they would watch this. Like, is there an edge to it?
Yeah.
I could see The Amazing World of Gumball having that show has an edge to it.
Sure. Or Uncle Grandpa.
This one does not, at least the episode we watched, I wouldn't say it's as edgy.
No, it's smart.
It is smart.
I think it's really smart.
And the characters look very, as you said, the simple animation.
Yeah.
It looks like a younger kid's cartoon with all the little food people running around.
It's funny, the more we talk about this episode, even though at the time of kind of doing the intake of the show, I was like, hey. But the more I think about it, the more I go, there's a lot of thought and care put into this show.
There is. Mistakes?
I think the mistake here would be letting anybody that's not in college, watch this show. Again, but it's always hard for us to put that mistake stamp on it because I'm like...
High school may be okay.
It's an enduring show. And I can't go wrong on that message. The message is okay.
Yeah,
right?
It was.
It ended pretty well, and again, I'm not offended at all, right?
No, I'm not either. And I'm not watching the show and saying, absolutely not, I don't want, my kids that are in high school watching it.
Right,
It's okay.
Yeah, I mean, if I walked in there, hey, watching Adventure Time, that's it. If you were, say, watching, and you walk in and you watch your teenage son is watching Adventure Time, you sit on the couch, watch it with him.
Yeah.
Totally.
That's interesting.
Yep. And I'm going to say, should I say...
What?
The Twitter and the Facebook?
Twitter, yeah.
Or just sing it like
la 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 la. No, I'm not going to sing it.
Well, should we say anything special that we're in California still?
We're in California. I'm always in California, so that's not that exciting. But Dave is in California.
Special to me.
Well, there you go. He's next door to the happiest place on earth, and we'll see if he's still happy tomorrow. So you can follow us on Twitter, Parent Mistakes, or on Facebook, Parenting Mistakes. And as always, we covet your feedback, positive and negative, and any suggestions on future shows that we should look at.
Please.
Yeah, put some comments down for us. Tell all your friends, tell the world, and that's it for Parenting Mistakes this time.